My question is for both of y'all, because both of you have gotten the chance to play an original character and then play a character that has a lot of backstory and history, and a lot of or other actors who have played the role. Thinking of Harvey Dent and you voicing Batman. So how does like the approach and the emotion change between sort of building an original character with the director and the writers, and then being the next man up to play such a well-known character?
That's a good question.
That was very well done.
I would say this with the Harvey Dent character, because all of the versions of Harvey Dent that have appeared on screen have actually existed in different kind of universes with all different casts and different tones. I didn't feel like I was beholden to any particular template on that. And frankly, that was kind of liberating. So we just did, I think, honestly, I feel like we kind of did the best version of Harvey Dent that's shown up on camera yet, partly because we got to spend so much time with the character, and partly because the actor who portrayed Harvey Dent in the show was just outstanding. But I had an experience that was... You haven't heard of him. So, but when I played Lucifer on Supernatural, that was a very different story, because I was playing a character that had a template that I had to plug into, and I needed to mimic and replicate certain things in order to make it feel like it was a continuation of the same character. And actually, I found that weirdly liberating, because it was like, oh, here are the exact parameters that you're trying to play within. I went over to Mark Pellegrino's apartment before we started filming the first day. It was like, we had a 10 a.m. call time. I had a 10 a.m. call time for starting to shoot Lucifer within Castiel's vessel. And I stopped by at 8 a.m. at Mark Pellegrino's apartment, and I was like, you gotta give me some tips, give me some pointers. Tell me how to do this. And he said, well, the biggest thing is in every scene, I just look at the other character that I'm playing opposite, and I, in my mind, I'm trying to make the decision: do I want to kill them or do I want to fuck them? And that was very informative for the character going forward.
And he has experience with that in real life, so he's well adapted to that.
That's right.
Mentality. Don't look at me. I would say, yeah, I agree with what you just say in that when you have something that's been laid out before you and done, in multiple iterations from different people, it does give you a bit of a template. So, when doing Batman, there were kind of two thoughts in my head. One, using all the inspiration that I had gotten from all the previous iterations of that role, but then also remembering that they hired me for my voice. So trying to put all of that, what I knew, into my voice, and then just hoping that I hit the mark. So that was with Batman. With creating a character from scratch, it's a little more unnerving because you kind of left your own devices to figure out where you're going. So at first you're kind of floundering a little bit until you really lock in on who this guy is with the writers and with the other characters. So in the first season of Supernatural, I mean, I tell this story. I haven't told it in a long time, but in episode 2, Phantom Traveler. It was the first time I worked with Bob Singer directing. And I'd only done the pilot, Wendigo, and now, so this was the 3rd episode. And it was, Dean and Sam on a plane, and all of a sudden, this is the first time that they're like, Dean's afraid of flying. And the other 2 episodes, Dean had been kind of this, macho guy that nothing scared him. I mean, he's facing down ghosts and facing down monsters in the woods, and he doesn't flinch. But now he gets on a plane and he's scared. So I thought, okay, well that's a good comedic opportunity. But how comedic are we going to go with this? I mean, we don't want it to get campy. We don't like what. So I was a little unsure of myself in those scenes and in that episode. And I did one take in the airplane where I kind of went a little, like I just went for it from a comedy standpoint, and then I walked over and I was like, oh, that was probably too big, that was probably too much, this guy's cooler than that. That was, I don't know, I'm second guessing myself, and I walk up to Bob Singer and I'm like, hey Bob, how was that? Is that too much? Is it in the range? Should I dial it back? Are we going more? Like, I'm just, kind of second guessing myself. And I knew Bob, and Bob and I didn't know Bob, this is the first time working, but I knew of Bob's career and his pedigree. He's such a seasoned director and producer, and so I was really looking forward to like hearing his thoughts, and I was like, oh, this guy's gonna really give me some pearls of wisdom here and help rein me in and help me get the best performance. And he just looks at me, he's like, oh God, you're not gonna be one of those actors, are you?
Oh.
I'm not kidding. Like that's what he meant it. And I looked at Bob and I go, nope. And I never asked him for help like that again. Because he's like, listen, if I'm not directing you, then you're doing what I want you to do. And it reminded me of like, an old baseball coach. He's like, if I'm not yelling at you, then you're doing what I want you to do. And so Bob gave me some of the best direction I've ever gotten in my life to date. And some of you see me do this, but Bob would just walk on set, and this is how great he and I, like, kind of, and with all of us, like, we all knew Bob well, we all have a great relationship with Bob, and he's just a one of a kind. And he just walks on set. I did a take, and he walks on set, and he's like, Jensen. I remember also every time that I do what I did, I go, got it. And then I did it. I knew what he wanted. He was like, it wasn't there. Give me something more. Find a different level. Figure. And then the next take, I did something, and he walks on the set, and he's like, see, that's good directing. Moving on. Like, he's like, that's what I wanted.
After every take, he would walk on to set, and he would sort of shuffle on a little bit, head a little bit down, not making eye contact, and we're all like, what? And he wouldn't tip you off. You didn't know which direction he was going with it. Like, what the fuck did you just do? Or, that was great, we're moving on. You just didn't know which way he was going. And what you wanted him to do was,
yeah. So if he clapped and started looking around, that means he's thinking about the next shot. Which means that we got that one, we're moving on. He would walk on, like, sometimes, the way he yelled cut, we knew if we were moving on. He would go, God. That means he's happy, we're moving on. Sometimes he wouldn't yell cut at all. He would just be like, he'd walk on, the scene would be over, and he would just walk on set and be like, cut. Jensen. Or sometimes, if he was just in the mood, he'd walk on set and be like, we're good. And then that would be it. So I don't know. What was the question? Did we answer the question?
Answered it perfectly.
All right.
Appreciate the answers. Appreciate all the fun.
Thank you.